The Allow house was never quiet. It breathed in sharp words and exhaled broken silences. Even in the dead of the night, nor at clock dawn, neither when the neighborhood dogs called into themselves and slept, the house on that wide ever-busy street in Ibadan echoed with tension, thick, sour, and unrelenting. Mr. Allow believed he was a man of authority. That was what he told himself when he shouted, when he slammed doors, when he raised his hand, when he tore his wife's dignity apart with words that cut deeper than any blade. Mrs. Allow believed she was supposed to keep enduring, and that's his own way of showing love. That was what she told herself when she stayed. When she cleaned up after him. When she covered her bruises with long sleeves and her pain with silence. And the children, Miriam and Mariah, learned to survive in the language of storms. Miriam, the elder, learned to read footsteps. To know when her father's breathing was too hard, when his shoulders were too tight. She learned to shrink, to hold her breath and only exist in corners. Mariah, the younger, learned to hope. She still laughed. She still sang in the mornings and believed someday it will be peaceful here, that love could grow even in cracked places. But love did not grow in that house. Only fear did. The day Mariah came home from NYSC, the house pretended to be normal. She arrived with a small suitcase, sun-kissed skin, and a laugh that sounded like a forgotten melody. She hugged her mother first, long and tight. She hugged Miriam next, whispering, "I missed you, big sis." She read her father's mood if it's safe to talk before greeting. Mr. Allow gave her a stiff nod. So NYSC is over. Time to face real life now. But for a moment, just a moment, the house felt lighter. 2 weeks later, everything ended. It began, as it always did, with a small disagreement. Dinner was late. Mr. Allow's voice rose. Mrs. Allow tried to explain. The explanation became an accusation. The accusation became an insult that led to shouting. Miriam was in her room, hands pressed to her ears. Mariah had just stepped through the front door, holding a small nylon bag of bread and eggs. And then, the sound of something sharp cutting through air. Mr. Allow had grabbed the nearest object in his rage, a metal paperweight from the table, and hurled it without aim, without thought. It struck Mariah at the temple. There was a silence so sudden, so unnatural, it felt like the house itself had stopped breathing. Mariah dropped the nylon bag. Eggs cracked across the floor. She collapsed. "Miriam!" Mrs. Allow screamed. But by the time they reached the hospital, Mariah's laughter, the one sound that had dared to live in that house, was gone forever. After the burial, the house became something else. It no longer shouted. It haunted. Mr. Allow grew quieter, but not softer. Mrs. Allow became a shadow of herself. And Miriam restless with grief. Also anger. And confusion. Because love, to her, had always meant a little bit of pain and abuse. Years later, Miriam walked into a company building in Lagos for a job interview, and carried her certificates in a brown envelope. Her heart beat too fast. Not because of the interview, but because peace still made her uneasy. She met Bode in the hallway. "Good morning," he said, with a small, warm smile. It was a simple greeting. But Miriam felt it like a question she didn't know how to answer. Bode was the ICT personnel. Calm voice. Gentle eyes. The kind of man who listened fully before speaking. The kind who never raised his voice, even when others did. They connected immediately. Effortlessly. That was the problem. Because Miriam did not understand a love that did not shout. At first, she mistook his calmness for weakness. "Why are you always so quiet and excessively calm?" she asked him once, irritation creeping into her tone. "I'm not quiet," Bode said gently. "I just don't think love needs to be loud to be real." She didn't know what to do with that. So she did what she knew. She pushed. She picked small arguments. She raised her voice. She accused him of not caring enough because he didn't react the way she expected him to. Because he didn't fight back. And each time, Bode would sit with her, look at her, not with anger, not with fear, but with patience, and say, "Talk to me. What are you really feeling?" That unsettled her more than any slap ever could. Because she didn't know how to explain that peace made her feel unsafe. That kindness felt unfamiliar. That love without chaos felt like a lie waiting to be exposed. So she tried to leave. "I don't think this will work," she told him one evening, eyes glossy with unshed tears. Bode said quietly, "Tell me, what have I done wrong? Are you sure this is what you want? If leaving me makes you happier, then I'll leave as quietly as I came." And that broke her. Because he didn't fight to keep her. He respected her choice. And she didn't know how to live in a world where love looked like respect. She left. She cried. Few days later, she came back again. Each time, Bode opened the door, not as a man desperate to keep her, but as a man willing to love her the way she deserved, even if she didn't yet believe she deserved it. The turning point came on a quiet afternoon. They were sitting in Bode's car. Rain tapped gently against the windshield. Miriam had just finished yelling at him, for nothing. For everything. And this time, instead of responding, Bode simply asked, "Miriam, who hurt you this much?" She saw it all, the house, the shouting, her father's raised hand, the sound of metal hitting her sister's head, the silence after. And she broke. Not in anger. In grief. She cried the kind of cry that had waited years to be heard. The kind that shakes your whole body. The kind that empties everything. "I don't know what love is without abuse," she whispered. Bode reached for her hand, gently. "Then we will learn," he said. "Together. Slowly. The right way." She began to unlearn the language of violence and relearn the language of peace, communication without shouting. She learned that love did not need to hurt to be real. That safety was not a trap. That calmness was not emptiness. She visited her mother, who had finally left Mr. Alao and started a small food business. They spoke about Mariah, not in harsh pain, but in soft remembrance. Mr. Alao lived with his guilt. A quiet, heavy companion that followed him everywhere. Some wounds do not get closure. On the day Bode proposed, it was simple. No crowd. No noise. Just the two of them at a small garden. "I don't promise a perfect life," he said. "But I promise a peaceful one. A respectful one. A safe one." Miriam smiled through tears. For the first time in her life, peace did not feel like emptiness. It felt like home. "Yes," she said. And somewhere, beyond memory, beyond pain, Mariah's laughter echoed again. Not in sorrow. But in blessing.